a judicial review hearing following termination of parental rights, order of the court back in, I think, November of 23. We're reviewing the case to determine the progress on permanency. Conducting the review virtually using Zoom. The attorney for defects, Mr. Skravanik, is here. Ms. Kirkland, the relative placement for the child, the guardian ad litem attorney for the child, Ms. Miller, is here. There are at least 3 people from CASA that are auditing the hearing.
Your Honor.
I don't know who said that, so.
This is Lisa Dowadu from CASA.
Yes, ma'am. Hey.
I just wanted to let you know that the one person that says Zoom user and Tiana, they are both CASA.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I've got somebody named Barrett or Mr. Barrett is in a vehicle. Is the vehicle stationary and parked?
That's the relative father. So Deborah and Barrett Kirkland.
Yeah, that's my husband. He has to, and he don't really know how to work Zoom, so he's not unmuting his mic. He's technically sitting in the car on lunch break at work.
Okay, I just want to make sure he's in a car that's parked, and then unless he has the head covering for religious purposes, we're in a court proceeding, he has to take off his cap or hat, or I can't tell for sure what it is. But can he not hear? Does he not have audio in the? I don't think you've ever introduced us to him before, Ms. Kirkland. If it was a long time ago.
He's normally at work all the time. He works early in the morning. He only has off on Fridays and Saturdays, so normally he's at work. Babe, there's a microphone thing. Can you touch it?
Does that mean he hears? He must hear. He heard what you said just then.
Yeah, let me see if I can call and tell him.
And
We'll fix it.
Graham, where's Mr. Turnipseed? Did he turn this over after the TPR was granted?
Yes, well, I'm the adoption case manager.
All right, you're the one who floats from county to county?
Yes, sir.
He just asked me for the Zoom link, I guess, so he can log in as well.
Who is he?
Mr. Turnipseed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Well, I don't know. I lost track of jumping all over the screen, so I don't know if I announced everybody or not. Hopefully, if I didn't announce you, you tell me, and we'll let you announce yourself. All right, then I guess I need to hear from potentially Ms. Kirkland, and definitely Ms. Graham, and maybe Mr. Turnipseed, if he ever gets in.
I just sent him the invite.
Well, he was in my waiting room and I let him in. I just never saw him pop back up. Go ahead, Mr. Skravanik. Give me your summary and then we'll hear from the witnesses.
So yeah, I got 2 court reports. I got one from Ms. Graham and one from Ms. Turnipseed. I'm not used to getting that many court reports. But
go with Ms. Graham. I'm sorry. Use Ms. Graham.
So Ms. Graham reports that the child remains placed with Ms. Kirkland and Mr. Kirkland. Had been in the home since 2018. I believe the child was released for adoption based on the phone call I got from Ms. Miller, who is handling the adoption petition, on April 26th of this year. Chase is currently in the Kilpatrick Elementary and is going into the 3rd grade. He is currently in therapy. Not having any issues with regards to that. The court report from Mr. Turnipseed also reports that Chase is having contact with his siblings who are with Mr. Hales. There is something also about Chase has not spoken to his mother over the last 3 weeks and does not want to have the phone contacts. That's obviously up to Ms. Kirkland as to whether or not that would continue or not, but that's something that Mr. Turnipseed did put in his court report. There is one issue, and I talked to Ms. Miller about that before we went on the Zoom hearing. So Mr. Jones Mr. Hales is on the child's birth certificate. Mr. Hales was shown to not be the biological father of the child by virtue of the DNA testing that was done during the case. During the case, Mr. Jones, who was then represented by Ms. Hayes, I believe, filed a petition to legitimate, and as part of the legitimation petition, and did a name change. What I suspect has happened is that when Ms. Hayes did that order, it never got sent to Vital Records, and they never issued a new birth certificate for the child to change the father. I'm not sure how that's going to be addressed. Maybe Ms. Miller can get with Vital Records about that and send them a copy of the order. I'm not exactly sure. But that is the one holdup that's with regards to the adoption is the child's name and being different. And apparently there not being an updated birth certificate reflecting the correct name of the child and the correct father of the child. So
I was going to just use the birth certificate that DFACS gave me that says what the name is, AKA, and then you just explain why that's not the father, and then just get the Kirklands a new birth certificate.
I leave that in your capable hands. I don't do any divorce work, so I wouldn't have any idea as to whether or not the judge is going to accept that or not. So
I think I'd run it by the judge before I got to the final hearing, and he said no. But or he or she, for that matter. But I don't know. I just know when I do the legitimation orders, I make sure that it's the person who's legitimating's responsibility to send in apply for the revised birth certificate. Because the court does not do that. Never have.
it should have been Ms. Hayes should have done that, and I suspect it didn't get done.
Or him or her is instructing her client what to do to get it done. One of the two. All right. Well, other than that, everything is in line.
This is Miss Graham, case manager, adoption case manager. Everything seems to be in line. I did have a chance to meet at the home where Chase is with Mr. and Mrs. Barrett. I'm sorry, Kirkland. Sorry.
I'll say, don't mix me up anymore.
I'm sorry. I see Mr. Barrett's name and I'm like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Kirkland, and all as well. I had a chance to speak with the child separately. And so that's my contribution. I didn't know if Mr. Turnipseed had anything to add.
Mr. Turnipseed, your turn on the floor. You got anything?
Yes, I also met with Miss Kirkland and Chase. I provided the update to Matthias as far as him speaking with mom. He also kind of wants to stop communication with mom. Miss Kirkland did express some of the concerns when the kid.
Is she just trying to stir up more?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And she did
like old times, old habits are hard to break, I guess.
Yeah, she did report mom making a threat to basically come down and get Chase from school and to basically take him with her for the summer, which was not approved by Ms. Kirkland, nor was it approved by the court. Just those concerns with mom. But other than that, Chase is doing fine as far as his Cub Scouts and school and things of that nature. He didn't report any complaints to me.
Yeah. Hopefully her lawyer made it clear to her when she did not prevail in the termination case that she has no rights to assert. She, you know, if I'm not saying Ms. Kirkland can't if she chooses. And if the child, especially if the child wants to visit, that's nothing that I would get in the middle of, but there's nothing that gives me the legal authority to make any of those parties do any of that.
think with mom, she's upset and she pretty much didn't care about what the court order stated. And she let Ms. Kirkland know that as well.
Well, that's. All right. Well, I hate it because if she wants to keep slugging it out with her mom, if I were Miss Kirkland, I'd just change my phone number, but mom doesn't need to be messing with the kid about all that. And that certainly, if she can't already tell that she's not making any progress doing it that way, she needs to just back off. And maybe at some point he'll feel better about having contact and then maybe want to spend some time with her later. I suspect that as dysfunctional as her life has been, that he's probably learned that things can be a lot better than it used to be. So hopefully he will benefit from all that. Anything else I need to know about?
No, yeah. We would just ask that the court find the department has made reasonable efforts to achieve permanency, keep the permanency plan for the child adoption, and then I would say maybe set it out for about 3 months or so. I mean, hopefully by that time the adoption can be finalized.
Okay, the end of August, Robin, get us a date for that. We already got November.
November the 19th.
So that brilliant brain of hers gets her in trouble. She's always trying to be 3 steps ahead. And she should learn by now I'm not that fast. How long does it take to get an amended birth certificate back if you were going to go that route? I'm just curious. Is it like trying to get a visa?
Well,
Passport or something?
2 or 3 months.
Is it? Yeah.
When does anybody know when Faye did that legitimation?
It would have had to have been, well, Robin brought the 7-inch thick file folder, and I don't see the, this goes back to 18, and I don't see the blue file that's supposed to indicate legitimation. I know a couple of times the file folder did not get color coded on some legitimations, and we just left them in the green folder. But I don't think I have that up here. She can look when she's finished finding that date. She can look in DocuWare and see when it was filed, I guess. She said she could. Give her just a second. I don't even know how to get into it. She can get in it on her computer. I probably could on mine if I knew how to do it, but we definitely don't need to teach old dogs new tricks this late in life.
I mean, and if the worst comes to worst, you could probably just get Mr. Hales to execute like a voluntary surrender of some kind as well.
But my thinking is, since you terminated on all parents in juvenile court, it shouldn't matter. I mean, it really, I mean, we can explain all this away, but
I'm pretty sure I didn't serve Mr. Hales by virtue of the fact that legitimation had been done. And I think my putative father did not, I don't remember what the putative father said on him or not.
I remember Mr. Jones. We had a discussion about he was in the processes of trying to go down to. They said he had to go to Doraville to the Vital Records Department in order to take the records there. The court documents there, but this happened in the process prior to him.
died.
I want to
Yeah.
say Mr. Jones died in like 2018 in August or something like that. Does that sound right?
Oh, he
Hey, it
died
started in 18.
2022, August 2022.
And that was probably about a year prior in that period somewhere that he had legitimated the child.
Maybe I just attach a copy of the juvenile court legitimation showing that he's legitimated and then he's still deceased. But that was probably part of your termination paperwork.
Termination order found that the legal and biological father of the child is deceased. So
Okay,
that's,
should be clear.
yeah. I don't know if we were called upon to address that Mr. Hales was not married to Miss Puckett. So he wouldn't have been the legal father by virtue of the child being born during the marriage.
No, but if the birth certificate was never changed, then he was probably still on the
But the birth
birth certificate.
certificate has his name on it, you're saying?
It does. It
Okay.
has Mr. Hale's name on it.
Well, then y'all need to get it off.
You think we need to get a new birth certificate done with Mr. Jones's name on it?
I
I
think
can't speak to that, but I think you definitely ought to get Mr. Hales' name off. Because otherwise you're gonna get to the adoption and you're gonna have, if the court, I think, don't you have to attach the birth certificate to the petition?
I do, but DFACS is the only one that can get the birth certificates because they're still technically the custodian.
I was gonna ask if there's something I can do to facilitate that.
They're gonna get the same one you would be able to get if you could get it, and it's gonna reflect the name of a father whose rights have not been surrendered or terminated.
What you want?
His name was changed and by order filed June 25th from a June 17 hearing in 21 that his name was changed to Chase and mother and father are responsible for submitting requests for amending the birth certificate and record.
Can I get Robin to give me a certified copy of that and I can run by and pick it up tomorrow?
Sure. I don't know whether that, I just don't know. I don't know whether that alleviates the necessity of having a court order somewhere finding that Mr. Puckett is not the father. You've effectively removed him from the birth certificate well, you would have if you'd had the death certificate reissued, but you've got an order saying that this guy is the father, not the guy whose name is on the birth certificate. But I don't know.
Well, again, like I said, my inclination would be thinking that if the easiest way to probably do it would be to get Mr. Hales to do some kind of voluntary surrender. Is he's never, I mean, once he the DNA testing done, he's never disputed that. So I would think, he's obviously still got contact with Miss Kirkland because of the kids are visiting and having the sibling visits. So I would think that if somebody reached out to him, he would probably be willing to do that. And then just attach your surrender documents to your adoption petition.
But then does that still get it changed for the purposes of getting the new birth certificate?
Well, but so if he surrendered, that would mean that his name being on the birth certificate shouldn't be an impediment, I would think. Then when you do the adoption, you're going to get a new birth certificate issued for Mr. and Ms. Kirkland, correct?
Right.
So would that not, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah. Miss Graham, do you still have contact with Mr. Hales?
I have not. That would be a better question for Mr. Turnestine to answer.
You know what? I'll go through Miss Kirkland. I'll get his information and have him sign a voluntary surrender.
If he'll do it.
Yeah, if you can send it to me, I'll print it out and I'll go by there and speak with him. It's not a big deal to see if Mr. Hales will sign off on it.
Okay.
If he wants to be responsible for that anyway.
But if he's going to sign it, he's going to have to sign it in front of a notary. So
Okay, I'll try to.
you might want to also get with Mr. Skravanik about amending the termination order to have a finding that that Mr. Hales is not the father.
That seems like that might be easier.
Yeah. I
We
can.
would still need to have a surrender though to attach to that, right?
Well, I mean, I could have found from the facts that he wasn't the father, but neither legally, because he wasn't married to the mother, nor biologically, because we'd already legitimated based on the paternity tests on Mr. Jones before he passed.
I'm not sure how I fixed that with him because I never noticed him with the TPR. So, like I said, the only thing I can think of is that we get him to do a surrender and then amend the TPR order to show that he surrendered any and all parental rights that he had to the child. Therefore, that takes him out of the picture, Mr. Jones out of the picture by virtue of his being deceased, and then any other unknown biological by virtue of the fact that well, we didn't publish, so that one was done by, we never did publish on anybody.
Okay.
Well, Judge Bartles is saying he doesn't need a surrender from Mr. Hales if it's going to be difficult to do. He can find from the evidence if we come up with an amended termination order.
But again, wouldn't he need to have been served? So would I not need to have him like do an acknowledgement of service of the TPR petition? And I mean, I'm not exactly sure how we would do that because he was never served with the TPR. So you're going to have that issue hanging out unless he does a voluntary surrender. Then I don't think you would even need to do, he wouldn't need to have been given notice of that.
Well, he never asserted any claim to the child, so I don't think there was any grounds based after the paternity testing and the legitimation. There was no reason to send it to him. And the only reason we're doing it now is because Mr. Jones didn't go do his birth certificate correction or revision. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about it. Right?
Right.
So I'm not so worried about him not getting notice because I don't think he was entitled to notice. He was not the legal father. If he'd been the legal father on paper because he was married and his name got on the birth certificate, so be it. But I don't think being on the birth certificate makes him.
I get what you're thinking. My thinking is though a little bit different than that. My thinking is because of his name being on the birth certificate is what makes it a little bit different than your regular run-of-the-mill putative father.
That doesn't give him a status as a father to whom notice is required. It might give him a title to notice of the attempt to change the birth certificate and take his name off. But I don't think it bestows him with the legal right of a legal parent. Or I mean, otherwise people would put all kinds of names on birth certificates.
But still, look.
It's schizophrenic on every other kid.
And I'm not trying to throw any roadblocks, and obviously the department wants this child to be adopted. But if I've got a putative father out there who has not legitimated the child, you have to still give them notice under the TPR statute.
He's no longer the putative father.
Well, you have to. The notice of effect says unless you file a petition to legitimate within 30 days of the receipt of this notice, you may lose all legal rights to the child. That kind of thing.
Well, good thing the law doesn't allow me to give legal advice, so y'all are on your own.
Well, the other point I'd like to bring up is that when the child is in school, they're calling him by the name that is on the birth certificate. So whatever I can do to help facilitate getting that completely removed, because it traumatizes him when he's called Saul or whatever the name is.
We're going to do that in the adoption, and when he gets a new certificate, all that's going to be done.
Okay.
I'm going to do a surrender of rights, and I'm going to send it to Miss Graham and Mr. Turnipseed and see if we can get Mr. Hales to sign it.
Well, you can find reasonable efforts were made to facilitate permanency, and they're still in progress. And it's the child's best interests are still being served with adoption being the permanency plan. Anything else you need from me?
Now, what was the review date, Your Honor? I think I heard you say November, but I didn't.
I don't think I ever said.
Oh.
August 19th. I did say that she was looking in November, trying to predict the unpredictable. August 19 at 9 o'clock on Zoom, unless y'all want it live.
No, what time did you say? I'm sorry.
August 19, 9 o'clock a.m. Subject to change.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all for your time.
Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody, good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully when I see you, Ms. Kirkland, you will be mama.
I'm already mama.
I know.
And
I was getting ready, you took the words right out of my mouth.
yeah, it's up.
Thank you for your patience and all you've done, because you
No
carried the
problem.
children's load.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for everything they've done.
Thank you,
You know,
Mr.
take
Kirkland.
care.